There she is.
Hi,
Hi,
Cynthia.
gorgeous.
How are
I
you?
am wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. You look
Good.
absolutely beautiful.
Oh,
My
thank
goodness, I
you.
love the colors on you, and congratulations on the launch of your magnificent beauty
Thank
line.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Making me blush. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you look, of course, you look beautiful as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your holiday to be with us this evening. How are you?
Good, good. I had a busy Christmas. As is with everybody, Christmas is full of joy, but of course, it's a little stressful. You have to get all your Christmas shopping done.
Yes.
You have to make sure you make time to see all the families, all the relatives visiting from out of town. I actually spent Christmas Eve in New Jersey with my
Oh,
in-laws. My husband's family, they are Italian, so they celebrate the seven fishes tradition
oh,
for Christmas Eve. So that was wonderful. And Christmas Day, I hosted in my house. So I cooked for 8 people.
wow.
Yes,
That
yes,
sounds wonderful. The seven fishes on Christmas Eve, and then you hosting on Christmas
yes,
Day.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
very
yes.
nice. It's a blessing. Well, my friends, bonjour, bonjour. Welcome to another episode of The Crown's Voice, where we dive into the pageant industry and have conversations. And my guest this evening is the beautiful Alice Giannetta. She is the founder, CEO, and executive producer of Queen of the World Pageants. She's also an attorney. Get this now. She is also former Mrs. New York, Mrs. Hong Kong, and Mrs. World. You know what?
Oh,
I'll tell you the truth. When I first started, you were one of my inspirations, and I went all the way down on your feed from 10 years ago. And I was just watching everything, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I am going to do that.
oh my goodness. I'm really
Wow.
honored. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank
Three titles. So tell
you.
us, how did you get into pageantry? And three titles. I mean, New York, Hong Kong, and then Mrs. World.
Yes.
Let's talk.
Yes. So that is the really cool thing about pageants is really you can start at any point in your life. There is no age limit to pageantry. There is a space for any woman. When I started in pageantry, I was already married. I was in my 30s. I had never done a pageant
Right,
before.
right.
I was already working in corporate law for 11 years at that time. And I was contacted by the director of New York America, Mrs. New York America, and she was very lovely. And she told me about the pageant. I reside in New York City. The pageant that year was in Rochester, New York, so it required a flight. And I said to my husband, I got off the phone with this wonderful lady, and she's a director for a Mrs. pageant. I had never heard of a Mrs. pageant. I mean, I grew up watching pageants on TV, and I always thought, you had to be young
Right.
and unmarried. And my husband really was my biggest supporter. He said, honey, you should totally do it. And I said, really? You sure? And he said, yes, absolutely. So really, I have to thank my husband for really encouraging me to embark on a wonderful new adventure. And I took a leap of faith. I flew to Rochester for a wonderful pageant weekend, and I ended up winning Mrs. New York.
Mm. Wow. So from corporate law, going to your first pageant and you won. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes,
Wow. So let me ask you, you became Mrs. New York and then Mrs. Hong Kong,
yes.
and then you went into Mrs. World. As I said, I followed your journey and I saw the work that you did around the world as a title holder, and it's very impressive. Um, what do you believe drove you to do everything that you did? Why did you go beyond what you needed to do to bring awareness to your cause and your title?
Yeah, yeah. When I reflect on it, there was no class to take to learn how to be Mrs. World or how to be a beauty queen there. So it really is, you learn on the job, so to
Right.
speak. I was the first time for myself. I won Mrs. World my first try. So I really didn't know what I was supposed to do. And it was really through trial and error and through a lot of discussions with my director at that time, which was the late Mr. David Marmel. Him and his wife, Elaine, they owned Mrs. World. And I ended up engaging in conversations, numerous conversations with David Marmel through email, and just really talking about, what are their expectations of me as a title holder, to really understand what it is that they're looking for. And, they were very supportive. They pretty much were saying, Alice, this is your year. Just do whatever you like to enjoy.
Wow.
So you can do as much as you like, or if you like to just take it easy, spend time with your family, that is okay too. So they really gave me no pressure whatsoever. And I was always very grateful for that. But, I guess I am a type A
Yeah, I see
personality.
it. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, you were traveling internationally and you were being Mrs. World. I saw that. I saw you were in Africa, you were in Asia. You did all of these things, and I'm quite sure it wasn't a requirement, but being the person that you are, you went ahead and did it. You mentioned the late David Marmel, I believe the founder of Mrs. America Pageants. They produced Mrs. America as well as Mrs. World. Well, once you became Mrs. World, there was a parting of ways, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. What happened, Alice? Because I saw that too. When I was inspired by you 3 years ago, I saw that and I kept digging and researching, and I'm like, oh my God, look at what she's going through. It looked so, she was doing such a great job. What happened? There's a lawsuit. I saw press releases. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, just to give a Cliff Notes version, I had a wonderful, wonderful time as Mrs. World. I actually served for more than 1 year. So my reign as Mrs. World was longer than 12 months. And during that time, I really had the most wonderful, life-changing opportunity to travel. It really opened up my eyes, and it really taught me so much about pageantry, the production of pageantry, things I liked and things
Mm,
I didn't like so much. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. And the late Mr. Marmel was truly exceptional. He is still one of my biggest mentors. Him and I had a wonderful relationship. I think it's always really special when you have a director that you really relate to and you
right.
click with. So I really enjoyed myself as Mrs. World. And thankfully, thanks to the late Mr. Marmel, he also entrusted me with a lot of opportunities and
Mm,
responsibilities within the Mrs. America organization, giving me opportunities to judge, for example, giving me opportunity as one of the first judges for the first Miss for America
oh,
pageant when they first
wow.
created the Miss for America pageant. I was one of the judges in their inaugural year. And of course, I was one of the MCs for the Mrs. World pageant as well at
So
Westgate,
you
Las
were more
Vegas.
than a contestant or more than a title holder, I should say.
Well, these were all
Mm,
responsibilities that were given to me after I already crowned my successor. So
okay.
yeah, so my involvement with Mrs. World really began after I was crowned Mrs. World. Then I served, I believe it was 14 months as Mrs. World. Then I crowned my successor, which was Mrs. Vietnam. She won Mrs. World that year. I crowned her at Westgate, Las Vegas. And after that, I continue to assist the Mrs. World organization and assist Mr. Marmel in many of the responsibilities, such as what I stated above,
Right.
which was the hosting and the judging. So my involvement really continued even after I was no longer Mrs. World. And then unfortunately, of course, we had a business disagreement, and there was a press release that I'm sure you read about because you talked about it,
Yes.
which I felt contained serious misstatements. Therefore, I did go ahead and I filed a federal defamation lawsuit in the Central District Court of California. And I am very happy to report that I have won a great victory
Wow.
in
You
the
won.
yes, in the Court of Appeals of the Ninth Circuit earlier this year. And I'm happy to say that our matter has been settled to the mutual satisfaction of
Both
both parties.
parties.
I am very
Wow.
pleased.
Well,
Yes,
first, let me say congratulations.
thank
And
you.
there's so much to unpack here. Like, there was a close relationship, mentor, learning, hosting, judging, and there was a parting of ways. Um, I had an experience over the summer with a pageant that I competed in, and a press release was, released about me as well that contained uh, lots of untruths. And you were one of the people that reached out to me, one of the few people. And I have to openly say thank you because we never met in person, we never spoke to each other. And when I was going through that, you messaged me and said, "Are you okay? I'm here for you." So I appreciate that, and I want to publicly acknowledge that.
Oh.
How did you feel when you were going through that time? Let's talk about that because, like I said, you were one of the few people. I know a lot of women in pageantry. You were one of the few people that reached out to me. You were one of the few people who didn't believe what was done the right way. They were not afraid to associate with me. When you were going through that, Alice, let's talk about how you felt, the support you received from other women in the industry, the lack of support that you received, and what gave you the courage and the strength to tell your truth.
Yeah, well, obviously, it was a very difficult time. You know, it was very hurtful because obviously I loved the Mrs. World organization, and I still do. I have great respect for them, and I have great respect for Mrs. Elaine Marmel, and I wish them nothing but the best. So obviously, I was very personally hurt, but you know, I was very lucky as well. I had my family members to support
Mm,
me. I have a small handful of girlfriends who obviously were on my team and supported me and really rallied behind me. So I think having family and friends support was crucial.
right.
Really for any obstacles in life. You know, I think anytime any of us are dealing with things that hurt us or things that, you know, surprise us, a curveball, so to speak, it's always really helpful to have a support system
Yes.
to lean on. So, you know, it was definitely a difficult time.
Wow. Wow. I can imagine. What would you say to other women who experience what we both, I should say, experience as far as emotionally? What advice would you give them in addition to making sure that you lean on the family support? What would you say to them if they feel like there's they were treated unfairly? What would you say to them?
Yes.
And in addition, what would you say to them if they feel that there is no support for their cause?
Yes, yes. You know, I really think it's important for any person, men or women, in situations that they're confronted with in life. And I guess in our instance, in pageantry, you know, it's important to speak up. I know speaking up can be lonely, it can be
Yeah.
isolating. And a lot of times when you speak up, you realize people that you thought were your friends are no longer as friendly to you anymore, or at least in public not as friendly to you, but it's
Mm.
okay. Sometimes when you are speaking from a place of righteousness and you're doing what is right and speaking the truth, you have to be okay with being lonely. You have to be okay with feeling a little isolated, but be comforted knowing that you are doing the right thing. And by you speaking up, you are helping other women down the road, so that they don't have to experience what you have experienced. So everything we do in life, there is a consequence, right? So, when there's an injustice that happens to you, I think it is important to have a self-reflecting moment to reflect and weigh the pros and cons. And if you decide for yourself that, your conscience is clear and that is a truly important, that you want to speak up and right the wrong, then you should speak up, because there might be other people who have endured the same or are suffering through the same ordeal. And you, by speaking up, you're really helping others as well.
Is it really worth it, Alice? I mean, these are just pageants, right? Most people looking on the outside will be, this is just a pageant, grown women, married women, in pageants, accomplished women. Why? I mean, is it worth it?
Well, that's really a question that's very individual, right? It's very individual. I think for me, it is totally worth it. And I'm very, very satisfied with how my case resolved, and it was settled to the mutual satisfaction of both parties. But on the other scale, I see pageantry as a wonderful sport, so to speak. And I think in sports, like in pageantry, there's always room for improvement, right? When I participate in sports, for example, I'm an equestrian. There's the United States Equestrian Federation now has a system in place to prevent abuses and to educate others about abuse and how to spot abuse. So things like that only come to being because there were people that spoke up. There are people that spoke up and they said, no, this is not right. I'm going to help change it. If I don't like it, I'm going to help change it. I'm going to help do the right thing so the future generations don't have to endure this. So I think similarly in pageantry, I see it as a sport where a woman continuously participate to improve herself each time. I think there's always room for improvement. There's always room. So I think if a contestant truly feels that she is wronged, and she feels she has endured some injustice, I think she should speak up. But again, this is a very personal decision.
Well, now you are on the other side. You are now the founder, the executive producer of Queen of the World Pageants. And again, congratulations. I watched your very first production, and coming from a production background myself, I love it. It was top notch. So congratulations. How does it feel now? Well, how does it feel, for lack of a better word, right? What is your experience now that you were a judge, you were an MC, you were an international title holder? What is the experience like as the founder and the executive producer of your own pageant? And what are you trying to accomplish? What are you accomplishing?
Yes. Well, as I said, I'm so, so grateful for all my wonderful experiences at the Mrs. America pageant, Mrs. World pageant, and I really learned so much. And that gave me a wonderful foundation in order to create my own pageant, Queen of the World. And I'm very proud of Queen of the World because it is modern. We have 4 divisions, 4 equally prestigious divisions, and that is designed to include women of all background, all ages, and all marital status. So I think that's one thing that really sets us apart. And there's so many things that I'm proud of about Queen of the World. But another thing that I like to share is that we run the company in a very professional corporate America system where we are highly organized. We are very transparent with our contestants. And I believe that when an organization is very organized, it really empowers our contestants to prepare themselves better and give them a wonderful pageant experience leading up to pageant week, where they feel very assured about the activities of each day, the expectations of each day, and when they are prepared, they feel more confident when they arrive in pageant week. So I'm very proud of my staff at how organized they are and how professional they are in terms of providing all of our contestants a top-notch professional and organized pageant experience.
Yeah, I can see, I can tell. One of the first things you said you were proud of is that women from all backgrounds will have an opportunity to participate. And on that note, I would like to talk about diversity, being a woman of color. What was it like 10 years ago, or when you first started in pageantry as a woman of color, of Asian descent? How was it? Because, all the stereotypes of the Barbie prototype, the Barbie template, the blonde with the blue eyes. Well, you were a woman of color. What was that experience like?
Well, I really had a wonderful experience at Mrs. New York America and at Mrs. America and Mrs. World. But I have to also be honest that, I definitely noticed that I was one of the few minority women in the room. So that definitely changes the tone. And it doesn't have to be in pageantry. It can happen at the workplace, right? It can
Right.
happen in the boardroom when you walk in the room. And if you're one of the few women or one of the few people of color, then you all of a sudden you notice that difference. So that definitely had an impact. I know that when I won Mrs. New York, I was the first woman of Chinese descent to win Mrs. New York, and that was in 2016, November 2016. And then
Mm.
when I won Mrs. World, December of 2017, I was the first woman of Chinese descent as well to win Mrs.
Wow.
World. Now, granted, Mrs. World, I'm sure they have been winners from different backgrounds, but I was the first woman of Chinese descent. So, in a way, I also pierced pierced the ceiling
Wow.
in my own way.
Alice.
So yeah, so I'm definitely very proud of that. But I think now I'm very happy to see across the board. I see a lot of women from
Yeah.
all different backgrounds, representing all different skin colors and religions, participating and winning pageants. And that's wonderful. That is awesome. We need to see more women of all different skin color, of all different backgrounds, winning pageants.
Yes, yes. And I can say in pageantry, I've made friends from all over the world, from India, from Russia, from the Ukraine, even from Germany. So, um, another question I wanted to ask you is, what is it about India? Why did you establish a pageant in India?
Oh, well, I have Queen of the World, an international pageant. So we have franchises in many,
Oh,
many countries, not
okay,
just India.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have Queen of the World India, Queen of the World Philippines, Queen of the World Sri Lanka. So we have our franchise pageants in many countries. But of course, India has been extremely successful. I'm very proud of our national director in India. She has been with Queen of the World since day
One.
one. So she's an integral part of our pageant organization, and they're doing a magnificent job.
What does the future of pageants look like to you, and what is your role?
Well, I hope I have a role in it. I will be very, I pray.
I believe you will. I'm just being a little nosy. I want to know, what are you going to do? What are your plans?
Well, I would be so proud and happy to continue to see Queen of the World grow and expand to even more countries. I would love to see our class of our contestants each year continue to double and triple. For example, for our international pageant coming up this April 2024, we now are going to welcome 37
Oh,
contestants.
wow.
So yes, and this is only going to be our third in-person pageant. So we are really growing our numbers, and I'm just very, very humbled by the success as reflected in contestants putting their trust in our pageant and directors putting their trust at Queen of the World as well. So I hope to continue to see Queen of the World grow, and I hope to see you, Cynthia.
I will be there. I will
We
definitely be
need
there.
you part
I
of Queen
will
of the World.
I
That's
will
one of my
definitely be.
wish.
I will definitely be there. You said it was April. What's the date again so that everyone can hear?
Yes. So it's April 22nd through 25th. It's 4 consecutive days, April 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. So that's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It is in New York City. Our pageant hotel is Pastana CR7 Times Square Hotel. That's where our pageant will be. That's where our contestants will be.
Woo!
Our preliminary competition would be Wednesday, April 24, and that's at Symphony Space Theater at the Thalia Theater. And our finale and coronation is Thursday night, April 25th at the Symphony Space Sharp Theater at 5:30 p.m., April 25th.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Well,
oh my God.
we
A
are
pageant in
still
New York.
accepting contestant applications
Oh,
for
yes.
anyone who's interested. Our deadline to register is January 31st, 2024. If you're interested in participating in once in a lifetime unique pageant experience, you'll meet contestants from all over the world and experience a really top tier pageant experience in New York City. Please do send us a direct message on our Instagram, Queen of the World Pageant, or you can email us through our website, queenoftheworldpageant.com.
Alice, for the woman who is watching, for the women who are watching right now, and they're deciding their next pageant, I know you just said it, but I'm going to ask you again. Why should they submit an application to Queen of the World before January 31st?
Yes. Well, you know what I love about you, Cynthia? You are a tough interviewer, I gotta say. This is like coming on to 60 Minutes. You don't have any softball questions. They're all hard questions, but I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, there are many, many reasons as to why I believe Queen of the World is the best pageant experience. But I think one thing I like to share, which is actually a feedback I had from one of our contestants who competed at our USA pageant in November. And what she said to me was, Alice, I am very satisfied with the Queen of the World experience because you did not overpromise and underdeliver. And when she said that, I literally took a step back and I was like, say that again in my head. And she said, you did not overpromise and underdeliver, because according to this contestant, she has a lot of pageant experience. She said many pageants out there, they promise you the world, they promise to give you XYZ experience.
Oh, yeah.
And then you attend and it's not what you promised. So the contestant ends up feeling like she didn't get, quote unquote, what she paid for.
Right.
So to speak. And I'm not saying any contestant really comes to a pageant to, quid pro quo, count exactly what am I getting what I'm paying for. I don't mean to insinuate that, but I think overall, an organization has an obligation to fulfill a contestant expectation to their satisfaction, at least, because I still feel that as an organization, we are providing a service, right? This is a business, we're providing a service, and we are in the business of providing a wonderful, fair pageant experience for my contestants. So that is the one thing I can promise all of the contestants who want to come to Queen of the World. Whatever we promise you, whatever experience we promise you, you will be leaving and experiencing this beyond satisfied. So for example, the contestant said to me, when you talked about we're going to have this gala dinner,
Right.
She said, I can't believe it. We came to the restaurant and we really came to a beautiful restaurant. We sat down, we had wine, we can choose our wine.
No red cups, right? You didn't have red cups. The little red plastic cups.
Wine glass. They ordered whatever they wanted from the menu. And they had 3-course dinner, and the contestant said to me, of course, she didn't join just to have a nice dinner. She can have nice dinner anywhere. Right. But I think it's the feeling of being respected by an organization. Queen of the World respects our contestants' time. We respect their money. We respect their trust in us. So when we tell you that we're going to provide you this experience, we will fulfill our end of the
You
bargain. So you will
know,
not be disappointed.
that's very, very important to me. You know, one of the pageants I competed in, you mentioned the restaurant. When I showed up for dinner, you know, I showed up for dinner and I can be picky, right? And I I showed up for dinner and I said to the other girl, I'm like, are we serving ourselves? And and she said, Cynthia, stop it. I said, no, what do you mean? This is a banquet hall. There are tables in here, there are servers here. Why do we have a buffet? You know, this is so I get it. I
Yeah.
look for a top notch experience. If we're going to a pageant and we're paying a certain amount, I believe it should be first class from the moment we arrive. There should be greeters there. There should be an assigned person who is there to, who is on site to troubleshoot. If we have a problem, they can tell us where to go or give us a list of where we can get the things that we need last minute. All of these things should be, you know, should be considered before asking people to come into your pageant because it has to be first class. And I cannot stand the paper cups. I cannot stand the little red paper cups. I mean, what is this little red paper cup? Why? This is a pageant, right? So I'm going to let you go, Alice. I just enjoy our conversation this evening. I think I want to ask you one more thing for the women who are watching, who is discouraged, who has participated over and over in pageantry, feel like she's overlooked. She's never going to get picked. Pageants are not fair. What would you say to her?
Aw. Well, I would say to her to find a pageant that appreciates the person that you are. I think there are so many pageants to choose from, and every pageant is perhaps looking for something that's unique to them, right? So, for example, a Miss America organization is looking for a winner that looks different than a Miss Universe or a Miss USA. So, I think it's first for the contestant to find a pageant organization that values the person that she is, the person that she represents, the experience that she brings, whatever stage in life she is. And then I think it's good as well to really reflect on her performance. So she can really have an honest conversation with herself in terms of her interview competition, if there is an interview component, her walking, if there's a fitness or swimwear, if there's an evening gown, to really evaluate, perhaps look at videos of her presentation, modeling
Mhm.
presentation, her walk. Photos and videos, I always think, are so educational because they really are a snapshot of what you look like on stage at that moment in time. And it pretty much would represent what the judges saw.
Right.
So I think, if you really want to improve on your performance and bring a better version of yourself, it's really educational to look at stage photos, videos, and to really find a coach to work with you, a coach that, is there in your best interest, that's going to assist you to reach your goal. And the goal does not need to be winning a crown. The goal could be, I want to do better than I did last time.
Right.
Or, if the thing I want to work on is public speaking, and if for my next pageant, if I can just challenge myself to improve on my public speaking or to ace the interview, that could be a wonderful goal,
Yes,
right? I think pageantry is like a sport.
it
So
really is.
every single time you compete, if you just break up your goals and say, okay, this time my goal is to do this better. My goal next time is to do this better. Before you know it, you have transformed yourself. And these are life skills that
Yeah.
can help you beyond pageantry, right? Public speaking, walking, showcasing confidence. These are all really wonderful life skills that can help you in anything in life.
Ladies, you just heard it from one of the best. She has three titles. She's an attorney. She's a pageant founder and executive producer. And she just gave you nuggets. She just gave you keys to success in the world of pageantry. Watch this live. I'm going to post it over and over again because you may not have been able to pay her for this advice. And you're getting it here free tonight. Thank you so much, Alice. Is there anything else you would like to share? And thank you for talking about your experience in pageantry. I know you haven't done so as of yet. So thank you for giving our audience, your story and telling them what happened and how it turned out. What else would you like to share with the audience before we
Well,
end?
I would just like to conclude by thanking you, Cynthia. Thank you so much for inviting me to be your guest. And thank you for introducing me to your followers and giving me the opportunity to share my story. So I'm very grateful to you. And I think that's another really wonderful thing about pageantry is that, you and I would have never met
Yes.
if it weren't for pageantry, and it really creates friendships that we can be living thousands of miles away, but we become close and united because of our common interest. So I'm very grateful to pageantry, and I'm very grateful for your friendship, and I am so excited for you and your new enterprise. You're going to
Yes.
take over the beauty
Oh,
industry.
yes.
Watch out,
Yes.
world.
Oh, you are in corporate. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to need a corporate lawyer. My husband's an attorney, but I need a corporate lawyer because we are going to blow up. I'm telling you
Oh,
right
yes,
now.
you will. Yes, you will. And I'm so excited for you. I love seeing other women succeed and achieve the wildest success, and just making it happen. And I'm so excited for you, and I'll be praying for you.
Thank
And whatever you
you.
need, I'm happy to help you.
Thank you, Alice. Likewise. Well, my friends, that was it. Queen of the World is April. What's the date, Alice?
22nd through 25th.
Make sure that you follow Queen of the World Pageants. I'm going to tag it when I repost this video. Call them for information, message them for information. And if you know a woman who competes in pageants or is thinking about it, I highly recommend this system. Alice, thank you so much again. Have a wonderful new year.
Thank you. Happy New Year, Cynthia.
Happy
Thank you.
New Year. Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye-bye.
friends.